National Electrical Code, or NEC, addresses the maximum allowable distance between the weatherhead, which is the point where overhead electrical service conductors enter a building, and the main electrical panel without requiring an external disconnect. The NEC generally allows a service entrance conductor to run up to 25 feet inside a building from the point of entry to the main service disconnect. This 25-foot rule is designed to limit the potential hazard of having unprotected service conductors running a long distance inside a building. Service entrance conductors are not typically protected by overcurrent devices until they reach the main service disconnect. Therefore, limiting the length of these unprotected conductors reduces the risk of faults and fires within the building. It is important to note that the 25-foot rule is not absolute, and there are exceptions and interpretations that can affect its application. Local jurisdictions and electrical inspectors may have specific requirements or interpretations that modify or supersede the NEC guidelines. Firstly, the NEC defines the service entrance conductors as the conductors between the point of connection to the serving utility and the service disconnecting means. This includes the conductors from the weatherhead through the building wall and to the main breaker in the electrical panel. Secondly, the 25-foot limit applies to the total length of the service entrance conductors inside the building. This means that the conductors cannot run more than 25 feet, even if they take a circuitous route. Thirdly, if the distance from the weatherhead to the main service disconnect exceeds 25 feet, an additional service disconnect must be installed at the point where the conductors enter the building. This disconnect allows the power to be shut off at the entry point, minimizing the length of unprotected conductors inside the building. Fourthly, the NEC provides some exceptions to the 25-foot rule under specific conditions. These exceptions typically involve situations where it is impractical or impossible to locate the main service disconnect within 25 feet of the entry point. One common exception is when the building is very large and it is not feasible to run the service entrance conductors directly to the main electrical panel. In such cases, the NEC may allow the service entrance conductors to run a longer distance, provided that certain safety measures are in place. These measures may include using heavier gauge conductors, installing additional overcurrent protection devices, or enclosing the conductors in a rigid metal conduit. Fifthly, another exception to the 25-foot rule applies to multi-occupancy buildings, such as apartment buildings or commercial complexes. In these buildings, the service entrance conductors may run a longer distance to a central metering location where individual meters are installed for each unit. However, each unit must have its own service disconnect located within the unit or in a readily accessible location. The interpretation and enforcement of the 25-foot rule can vary depending on the local jurisdiction. Electrical inspectors have the authority to interpret the NEC and to make decisions about whether a particular installation complies with the code. It is important to consult with the local electrical inspector before beginning any electrical work to ensure that the installation meets all applicable requirements. Furthermore, the type of wiring method used for the service entrance conductors can also affect the application of the 25-foot rule. The NEC specifies different requirements for different types of wiring methods, such as rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, electrical metallic tubing, and cable. In some cases, the NEC may require the use of a specific wiring method to provide additional protection for the service entrance conductors. For example, the NEC may require the use of rigid metal conduit for service entrance conductors that are exposed to physical damage. In addition to the NEC requirements, local building codes may also impose additional restrictions on the installation of service entrance conductors. Building codes often address issues such as fire safety, structural integrity, and accessibility. It is important to comply with all applicable building codes to ensure that the electrical installation is safe and code compliant. When planning an electrical installation, it is essential to carefully consider the location of the weatherhead, the main electrical panel, and any other electrical equipment. The goal is to minimize the length of the service entrance conductors and to locate the main service disconnect in a readily accessible location. If it is not possible to comply with the 25-foot rule, it may be necessary to install an additional service disconnect at the point of entry. It is also important to use the correct size and type of conductors for the service entrance conductors. The NEC specifies the minimum size of conductors that are allowed for different ampacities. Using undersized conductors can result in overheating, voltage drop, and other problems. It is also important to ensure that the conductors are properly insulated and protected from physical damage. The service entrance conductors should be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner, with all connections properly tightened and insulated. The electrical panel should be properly labeled to identify the different circuits and the location of the main service disconnect. A clear and accurate labeling system makes it easier to troubleshoot electrical problems and to shut off the power in an emergency. In addition to the technical requirements of the NEC, it is also important to consider the safety aspects of electrical work. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is essential to take precautions to protect yourself from electric shock. Always turn off the power before working on any electrical equipment. Use insulated tools and wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and rubber gloves. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician has the training and experience to perform electrical work safely and correctly. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Electrical codes and regulations are constantly changing, and it is important to stay up to date on the latest requirements. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector before beginning any electrical work. Always ensure that any electrical work is performed by a qualified and licensed electrician to guarantee safety and compliance with local codes. Remember that electrical codes are in place to protect people and property from electrical hazards. Adhering to these codes is crucial for ensuring a safe electrical installation. When unsure about any aspect of electrical work, always seek professional guidance. The 25-foot rule is a critical component of electrical safety, and understanding its implications is essential for anyone involved in electrical installations. Furthermore, it is always recommended to consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments for the most accurate and up-to-date information. The NEC is revised every 3 years, so it is important to ensure that you are using the current version. Local amendments can also vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, so it is essential to check with the local electrical inspector to determine the specific requirements in your area. In addition to the 25-foot rule, the NEC also contains many other requirements related to service entrances. These requirements cover topics such as the size and type of service entrance conductors, the location and type of service disconnect, and the grounding and bonding of the electrical system. It is important to be familiar with all of these requirements to ensure that the service entrance is installed correctly and safely. The service entrance is one of the most important parts of an electrical system. It is the point where the electrical power enters the building and provides power to all of the electrical circuits. A properly installed service entrance is essential for ensuring a safe and reliable electrical system. If you have any questions about the 25-foot rule or any other aspect of electrical installations, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can assess your specific situation and provide you with the best advice. They can also perform the electrical work for you, ensuring that it is done safely and correctly. By understanding the 25-foot rule and following all applicable electrical codes and regulations, you can help to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system for your home or business. It is also important to remember that electricity can be dangerous and should only be handled by qualified professionals. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to leave it to the experts. Electrical safety is paramount, and it is always better to be safe than sorry. Regular inspections of your electrical system are also recommended to identify any potential problems before they become serious. A qualified electrician can perform an inspection and provide you with a report on the condition of your electrical system. They can also recommend any necessary repairs or upgrades. By taking these precautions, you can help to ensure the safety and reliability of your electrical system for years to come. Remember to always prioritize safety when working with electricity and to consult with qualified professionals when needed.